welcome to the Wrestling Academy podcast, a podcast all about wrestling history with no linear timeline or trackable syllabus. So if you're a lifelong fan or you're brand new, this is the podcast for you. I am your headmaster. My name is Michael Classic.
And I am Samee Junio, your Homecoming King here at Wrestling Academy. And guess what? If you go over to YouTube and follow us, once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I will 100% smash Michael Classic through a table.
That's right. I mean, I know you've probably just tuned into this podcast, but if in the 30 seconds we've been live, you're like, this guy, this smug piece of crap needs to be put through a table, hit that subscribe button and help us make it happen. I recently did a little bit of research in how much money that costs, and I said it last time, I'll say it again. It really did give me a huge new appreciation for just tables matches in general. So in addition to trying to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we are also trying to solve a mystery, a cold case, if you will. When we were doing our episode on the Royal Rumble, we watched the Royal Rumble 2008, where we saw a very unique individual who was sat in the back of 90% of the shots just making goofy faces, and the only thing we know for sure is that they were wearing a yellow t-shirt from the band Ween. And Sammy, I think you can attest, the Ween Kid has captured our imagination, and we have been on the hunt to find Ween Kid ever since. So we want you to, like, if you know Ween Kid, if you've ever met Ween Kid, if you've been to a party where somebody mentioned that they know somebody who was in the front row of Royal Rumble 2008. So this is like almost 20 years old. So this has become a cold case, and it's become our obsession, and we're not going to rest until we find out. Hashtag who is Ween Kid. So if you have any information, tag us on any of our socials, or you could call our anonymous Ween Kid tip line, where you can leave us a clue there, and it can be totally anonymous. You don't have to leave your name. Please don't prank us.
Yeah, prank us a little bit.
Don't prank us. Don't prank us at all.
Prank us a little bit.
Okay, the number for the Ween Kid tip line is 708-669-4512. Again, that is 708-669-4512. And also, Sammy, I can't help but notice the background, the setup, it looks a little bit different than normal.
Yeah, shockingly, your background looks like what mine usually is, and my background is your face.
That's right, because we're both in New York.
It's true. We're in New York, and we're in my very small bedroom where it is fine to record a podcast when it's one person, but when it's two people, I feel like jumping off a bridge.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was gonna be in the storyline a little bit and be like, wow, looking around, this is a pretty huge studio space you got here, Sammy. I
can't lie. I can't lie to the fans, man.
I'm super. Sammy seems ready to jump off a bridge, Stone Cold Steve Austin style. I'm having a great time. And the reason why we're both in New York is because 2 days ago we were just in Philadelphia, where we saw WrestleMania 40 live. So normally we're a wrestling podcast, but today we're going to talk about very, very recent wrestling history with something that happened 2 days ago.
Yes, that's true. We went to Philadelphia to watch WrestleMania XL, WrestleMania 40. And my goodness, what a show we saw. Michael has already noticed that I screamed like I was getting murdered at one point. And then the following night, we both screamed like we were being murdered because, I don't know, everything was just so thrilling, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, Sammy, because this is both of our first WrestleMania. We've both never been, but I went to a WWE live event. I want to say 15 years ago. I went to a Raw at the Rosemont out in Rosemont, Illinois. We all like packed into an arena and we saw Raw. And so that up until then, that had been my only encounter with any sort of WWE program. So I guess I was curious, going to WrestleMania, experiencing WWE live. How did you feel? What did it? I mean, because we've been to plenty of live wrestling events before, but did you feel like the caliber of how WWE performs was better, worse, the same? What do you think?
Yeah, going to WrestleMania live, going to WWE live. I mean, my goodness, just the production of it all was just absolutely stunning. I think that I said like no less than 100 times how impressed and excited I was about just the production and the behind the scenes stuff that we were able to see. And you never know who or what you're gonna do until you're doing that thing. And one thing, spoiler alert, that I did that I didn't expect that I would, is that I fully 100% support Dominic Mysterio.
So it wasn't until you experienced the magic live
when
that
I
you
saw his tiny little body in the ring live, he captured my heart and my soul. Dominic, love you, bro.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go through the whole event, match by match, and spoiler alert. I think you can tell that we're gonna do night 1 today, and then tomorrow we're hitting you with night 2. Look, we're an accredited Wrestling University podcast, but we are on strict travel schedules, so we're making do with our hectic travel schedules.
We're making do with this.
I was really excited to go to WrestleMania because this is just absolutely one of my lifelong dreams ever since I was a kid. I never honestly thought until we started doing this podcast that I was ever going to be able to go to an event like WrestleMania because, and I think we'll get into it a little bit more later, but it just was one of those things with the amount of people in my life and how they felt about wrestling. It just never really seemed like it would ever feasibly make sense for me to just sort of travel and go to an event this big by myself. So I was so happy that, I got to meet Samee, we got to do this podcast, and then we both agreed that we really wanted to go to WrestleMania this year. And so Samee, I don't know if you know this, but you lifelong bucket list. You maybe one of my childhood dreams came true because we're doing this. So I was so excited, and so I really think that it took everything up a notch, and everything just was. I felt like a kid again, and I had so much fun at WrestleMania.
WrestleMania wasn't the only event that we got to this weekend. We also went to Effy's Big Gay Brunch that's put on by, I don't know, America's sweetheart, Effy?
Yeah, it's so the thing about WrestleMania that's so cool is there's a whole ecosystem that pops up around the event itself. So WrestleMania this year went to Philadelphia, and so in the Philadelphia area, there were just so many different independent wrestling events, conventions, meet and greets, parties, all kinds of stuff that all just sort of pop up. So, wrestling fans can all go and experience all this stuff because maybe you're from a place that doesn't get too much wrestling. You get to go to this big event and experience a lot of different kinds. So me and Samee, we're big GCW fans, and so we thought it would be a lot of fun to be able to see a GCW mainstay, Effy. He has an event called Big Gay Brunch that he does every Mania. And went to the one in Philly and then went almost directly from that to WrestleMania Night 1. So I think we saw something like 14?
We saw 14 wrestling matches basically in a row. And I couldn't have had a better Saturday.
Yeah, we saw wrestling in ostensibly like a warehouse.
And catering hall, yeah.
A catering hall. We went from that almost directly to the grandest stage with just an insane live production budget. So it was like we really got to go all over the wrestling world.
It did feel really sweet to go to an Effy/GCW show because that is the first type of event that you brought me to. So to go from something that feels incredibly familiar to something in just huge was really, really sweet. As far as matches that really stood out to me, I got pretty stoked during let's just list the wrestlers that we saw kind of in order, just rattle off the matches.
So yeah, rapid fire. So rapid fire, go through the event, and if there was one that really jumped out to you, maybe we stop me and we can delve in. So the first up we had a 4-way match between Monomoth, Aaron Rourke, Devin Moore, and Rico Gonzalez.
Yeah, Devin Monroe.
Yeah, Devin Monroe.
So, look, I'll stop us at every single event, but we won't get deep into it because all of these matches were so fun. And before we got to Effy's Big A Brunch, you mentioned how on the internet you kind of heard the buzz that Effy being able to book Monomoth was a huge deal. And when Monomoth came out, I knew exactly why it was such a big deal that Effy booked Monomoth.
Yeah, when Monomoth came out to the ring, they were just in like an angel costume.
I
It
love
was just
wings.
so yeah, wings and yeah, just totally gorgeous. And then the moves in the ring, like I felt like Monomoth was so like there was a fluidity and like a dance vibe to everything that they were doing. It was great.
Just truly angelic, and people behind us were even like, oh, an angel. It's like, yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then so then up next we had a tag team match between the team of Edith Surreal and Jamie Lynn Senegal, and they fought the Runaways.
Edith Surreal is a wrestler I follow. I follow Edith on Twitter, so I was super excited to see her tangle up with the Runaway, and it was really cool. It's always just so fun to hear, like, I've gone to GCW or indie wrestling in New York and LA, and it's just so fun to hear everybody cheering for their gals, you know?
And then up next was a singles match between Trish Adora and Karam, and Karam had a drag queen Pollo Del Mar sort of accompanying him to the ring.
Yes, so huge match. Karam is one of those wrestlers that has this just beefy, meaty, huge physique, and at one point Trish Adora basically exposes Karam's hips.
Yeah, his whole butt is on display. And he just basically parades around the entire. I've never seen somebody use their butt as like an intimidation tactic, because he was sort of using it to be, like people were very scandalized in the front row when he was just sort of walking through, and he was kind of like looking at it like, what are you gonna do about
it?
it?
That's my butt.
Yeah, was very proud of himself. In his hips, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there was, around Trish Adora, she is from the New Japan Wrestling School in LA, so she got a huge pop too. And I will definitely be looking into both of these wrestlers. Actually, all of these wrestlers that we saw on Saturday at Effy's Big A Brunch 9 were just stunning.
Yeah, there was so then up next was a match that I had so much fun with. So it was the team of Bussy, which is Alley Catch, and then Effy, who puts on the whole event, and then they fought the team of Dirty Breeze, which is Breeze, formerly Tyler Breeze from the WWE, and then Dirty Dango, formerly Fandango from the WWE, and they used to be just one of the funniest tag teams. They were called the Fashion Police, and so now that they're Dirty Breeze, they kind of have elements of their Fashion Police gimmick, the Fashion Police character. And what I was trying to explain to Samee, for people who don't really know the Fashion Police, is so Tyler Breeze back in the WWE was kind of a Zoolander-esque male model character, and then Fandango was a ballroom dancer type character, and then they put the two of them together, so they were both sort of vapid fashion victim type of characters, and then they became the Fashion Police, who would criticize people's wardrobe, and then they slowly morphed into being real life detectives trying to solve mysteries and stuff. So obviously they were very goofy and over the top thing. They parted ways with WWE a long time ago, but it was just it felt so good to be able to see basically the Fashion Police have a match, and it was so much fun. And it felt like the story, I don't know about you, Samee, but it felt like the story of the match was very much that Dirty Dango was such a himbo that he could be sort of swayed any which way. So he and Effy were very
close to kissing.
Yeah, very close to kissing, but it felt in a way where, Breeze would come in and be like, no, we're actually supposed to be fighting them. And then Dirty Dango was like, oh, right. Of course. But then Effy would be like, well, actually, we should be kissing. And then Dirty Dango would be like, oh, yeah, I guess that does make sense or whatever. So I just loved it. I don't know. I'm always a sucker for a good himbo, and he was really laying it on thick, and it was so fun.
Some of my possibly favorite wrestling chants happened during this match. We got "Suck That Dick." We got "ACAB."
Yeah, it was really funny to yeah, the crowd was very much like, ACAB includes the fashion police. So
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, they're all bastards. They're all bastards. We also got treated to Fandango doing a full Magic Mike strip routine onto Alley Catch.
Yeah, so he gets a chair, and so you think he's gonna hit her with the chair. Then he sets up the chair in the middle of the ring, puts her in the seat, and then they start playing Pony by Genuine, and he just starts like dancing and grinding for her and stuff like that. And then I think as a sort of like punishment move, they set Tyler Breeze up in the corner, and then they pull Fandango just straight junk first into Tyler Breeze's face. They connect and then collapse into a 69 and then just rolled all around the ring, so being like, funny. Oh, we're stuck and we can't get out, but we're humiliated. And then at a certain point, Bussy, so Alley Catch and Effy, they get both of the Fashion Police together, and they're going to make them kiss each other. They're going in slow motion. Everyone's chanting, kiss, kiss, kiss. And then at the last second, they move out of the way, and they get Effy and Alley Catch to accidentally kiss. And it was just so funny with the vibe of the room we were in. Everyone was like, oh, boo, no way. Yeah, so that match was just so great, so much fun. And it just was so great to see Tyler Breeze and Dirty Dongo ride again. And that's one of my favorite things about Mania, is just people kind of come in from all over. So wrestlers who I never thought I'd get a chance to see, I got to see them have a great match, and I felt like they hadn't lost a step, and it was just so fun to see them. So then up next was a huge tag match. I'm going to try to get everybody's name, but it was Team Paro and Team Pollo. And so it was just like a huge one. It was like, what, 8-person tag match. So it was just
10 man tag.
Yeah. So it was just a huge 10-person tag match, and it was absolute pandemonium. And it was to the point where there were so many people filtering in and out, flying around. I was like having trouble being like, okay, I think, well, these two are obviously fighting, so I think they're on opposite teams. It was absolute melee, but not in a way that was like cheesy or overwhelming or something like that. It was just truly watching 10 people fight each other all at once. And since it's GCW, they're getting chairs involved, they're getting pieces of door involved, stuff like that. And then it also, I don't know if I've ever officially said this on the podcast, but it really did illuminate for me that I really think that drag queens as ringside managers was such a like, chef's kiss. Of course they've got the acting chops to really be able to play up that live drama and presentation that I'm always looking for in a wrestling match. And then of course drag queens would know how to do that. And I feel like occasionally hit a costume change mid-match, which is crazy.
I love that. Yeah, we love a reveal. It's funny to me because, people are always like, oh, well, wrestling's like drag, isn't it? I'm like, yes, it is like drag. And then also when drag queens are involved with wrestling, it is incredibly much more cool.
Yeah. So that was one of the two revelations I had in the same day, where I was like, oh man, we need to get, I don't know how we get more drag queen involvement in wrestling, but we need it. And then there's another one that I'll get to when we get to the WrestleMania event itself. So up next was a GCW Ultra Violent title match between Rina Yamashita, the champion, and Billy Dixon.
So these two are powerhouses of violence, and they're also both super cute. And Saturday Day was no exception. These two came to the ring, super cute as hell, and then left the ring bleeding. And we love that.
As cute as they were brutal. And then finally, the headliners, the final match of the afternoon was going to be a match between Dark Sheik and Sunny Kiss.
What a main event for Effy's Big Gay Brunch. I'm a huge fan of Dark Sheik. And I really like Sunny Kiss too. And it was, a good match. Solid match. If you have the means to get a subscription to fight.tv, Effy's Big Gay Brunch is available there.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I was a huge fan of Sunny Kiss in AEW. So it was really great to see her, be able to, it seems like she's getting back out there and doing matches again. So I just, it made me really excited and really happy to finally be able to see a Sunny Kiss match, because I've been a fan of her for a really long time. And I mean, I love Dark Sheik, and so it was just really great to. And you were telling me that you had not noticed the that she does during her entrance. So you got to do that one live.
Yeah, which was really, really fun. I have really latched on to all of what Dark Sheik is all about. So thank you, Dark Sheik, for everything you do. And also thank you to Effy. Huge thank you to Effy for putting on Big Gay Brunch, not only during WrestleMania weekends, but like kind of just, I don't know if it's randomly, but he does put them on
sporadically,
sporadically, but it is also just an important event for, LGBTQ plus folks who love wrestling, because sometimes wrestling does feel a little bit, not for us, but it's getting better. And when Effy puts on events like this, it's just such a fun, it's just, I don't know, it kind of felt like wrestling elevated a little bit, you know what I mean? But yeah, so
absolutely. And I think Effy said something at the very beginning of of his event that really made me so happy, because it's like the exact ethos of what we try to do here at Wrestling Academy, because his philosophy is very similar to our philosophy, where it's like, look, to be a wrestling fan, all you need to do is watch wrestling that you enjoy. And so it's like, you don't need to know, you don't even, you don't need to know the storylines, you don't need to know the wrestlers, like you don't have to do anything. All you have to, I think, to be a wrestling fan, all you have to do ever is just enjoy wrestling. And so it was just really cool to see him put on a big cool event that was like super cool, super inclusive for everybody to be able to get there. And I mean, it was just nice to look around the room, and it was just, yeah, I don't know. It was just like jammed full of so many people who were just like so stoked to be there at like noon on Saturday. We all flew into Philly for this, and it really kicked the weekend off right for me, and I'm really happy we went. And then we went from that almost immediately to WrestleMania Night 1.
Oh, Michael. Walk me through your feelings when we finally sat down at our seats.
It was interesting. I'll be totally honest with you. I did not realize it was going to be an open air field for whatever reason.
Oh, you dingus?
Yeah, I know. You were just sort of like, yeah, it's going to be the Lincoln Financial Center. I was like, great. Let me not look into that at all. And I never did. And so I walked in and was like, oh, it's outside. And so, luckily I had the jacket I walked in with, but I definitely...
Yeah, there was one point where I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll, find some gloves. Maybe we need to hit a target. And you gave me this face of, why do you...
Yeah, why would I ever need
Samee,
to do that?
Why do you care? It's like, it's gonna be outside.
Yeah, it was. So it's gonna be chilly from the venue to the car. Okay.
I am a small person, Michael.
I know, but it's like truly, I mean, you're joking, but it's like as soon as we walked in, the thing crossed my mind where I was like, oh, that's why they were right. That's why they asked about Target.
Turns out I'm always right.
I mean, truly one of the 15 times you were fully right about travel decisions we made that weekend. But hey, we're doing our best. But I think the event itself, I really was blown away by the scale of the event. And it's one of those things where you think, I've been watching WrestleManias my whole life. And you see the set, you see the venue, you see the ring, you see the guys in the ring, you see everybody doing their thing. But truly being there and just seeing how big the lighting was, how big the set was.
Yes.
Just to see all those graphics projected so high, and then also just to see where things are spatially in relation to each other. So the ring to the ramp, how far that actually is. I'll be honest with you, it was further than I thought that it was. And so you just see the scale, and then you see the performers, and they're so huge.
They are.
And I mean, we were really high up for night one, but it was...
Okay, we were only just a little high up.
We were as far away. We were as far away as you could possibly get. They look like little Lego people walking around. No, but it was... I think experiencing it in that way really... Because I'll be honest with you, I looked at the chatter on kind of how people felt watching WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And I heard some stuff where people said that they thought night one was a little bit slower, and they also felt like the fans weren't super engaged. And I think just being there and experiencing it, I mean, I can tell you for a fact, at least 2 fans on night one were so engaged, I thought one of them was being kidnapped at a certain... They were screaming so loud.
It was Michael, and definitely not me at all.
I mean, I definitely blew out my voice screaming too, but it was one of those things where, to me, experiencing all this stuff live, where it was just really interesting because we went back and we rewatched night one just to be like, okay, well, what didn't we get that we were there live? And it was just interesting to see what the two different experiences were, because being there, being in the moment, experiencing the energy with the people in our section, and just being like blown away by the scale of all that stuff, to me, it really elevated the whole experience. And so I'll be honest with you. I mean, generally,
Please.
Wrestling Academy is a pretty positive podcast in general, but I would say,
unless we're talking about John Cena.
Yeah, unless we're talking about John Cena, who Samee actually did get really pissed off when he showed up. But yeah, I think it's like, I had a hard time not being just super stoked all weekend and having so much fun.
Yeah.
Even with some of the matches that when I went back and rewatched, I was like, I can see why this feels a little bit slower on the tape. But in the venue, for me, it felt really, I got why they were making the choices they were making. And so I do feel like sometimes it gave me like a greater perspective, because I think I've been watching WWE events my whole life, and I didn't ever, we've both worked in live events before, and so I don't know why I didn't realize that they're having to cater to both and be like, oh, they're trying to take just as much care of the people in the venue than they are for the people who are watching at home. And so seeing it live and then watching it back really gave me a greater appreciation for, honestly, I feel like how seamlessly they're able to really take both things generally into consideration, with the exception of like their spotlights. But other than that, we'll get into that in our night 2 review.
Yeah, I think there's just so much value in going to a live show, whether it's wrestling or otherwise. And I mean, yes, there is billions of dollars in difference between Effy's Big Gay Brunch and Wrestlemania, but the production is there. And oh gosh, Michael, you and I set a bet, and I asked you, how long do you think it would take for me to start crying? And it was immediately. Once we sat down and we got the new like Now Then Forever video, I was already fully weeping. And gosh, I don't know, it's just so overwhelming and impressive. And just in general, Wrestlemania XL, both nights are available on Peacock right now. And I think, honestly, we said that we are generally a wrestling history podcast, and I think that Wrestlemania XL was historic. So I think it's absolutely in our right to cover it immediately.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, so this is outside of our usual programming, but we hope you enjoy, and then we hope you stick around what we cover next.
It was kind of funny though that when we sat down, we kind of here at the Academy try to not conjecture or anything. We kind of let something happen and then we talk about it. But the second we sat down, we started to be like, oh, what's going to be first? Who's going to be there? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? So we're not perfect. But yeah, we just couldn't help ourselves.
Yeah, Samee's right. Part of the reason why we started a wrestling history podcast is because we just never really wanted to conjecture on stuff, and we like being able to look at an event that has already happened and then be able to figure out the story that was happening around that time. And then so when the story is unwritten and there's nothing but crazy hypotheses, me and Samee definitely did that. And I do want to commend us, honestly, and I mean, again, this is yet another travel time where Samee was right, but I think you were basically like, hey, what if we just like shut up and don't talk about it and just kind of see how the night goes? And we stuck to that philosophy, and I felt like it really served us pretty well for the event, because I was doing all kinds of stuff of, you look at the odds and you look at all the you try to read the tea leaves in the social media, do all this, and I really found myself being lost in 10 different theories instead of just looking at the match that was happening right in front of me. And 9 times out of 10, when I locked back in, I was having a great time. And so, yeah.
So let's move on to the first match. This is the Women's World Championship title match between Goth Queen Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch's book. Not your average girl.
Yeah, it's true. The build up to this match, the whole promo package was very much just reading excerpts of Becky's book and really talking about her book and how her book just came out. And then she came to the ring dressed up as her book. She was dressed as her book for the whole thing.
And, you know, I love Becky Lynch as much as the next guy and maybe a little bit more. But, man, I just had such a giggle fit at, like, they're really pushing the book. And she's already a New York Times bestseller. I think on the internet I saw that it was an immediate New York Times bestseller. So, I don't know. It was just so funny. And the rewatch, we got to see the details on both Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch's in-ring gear, and it's just so lovely. I love being able to see what these wrestlers come to WrestleMania with, and yeah, it's really great.
And honestly, how much the build up to the match, especially in the stadium. So, I mean, obviously Rhea Ripley has been on a dominant title reign the moment, and it's really the question right now is who's going to be able to stop Rhea Ripley. And I'll be honest,
a gun.
Yeah, she's going to wrestle a tank, and we'll see what happens. But for me, it was one of those things where how much they were pushing Becky and her book, it really got in my head where I was like, oh, I think Becky might actually win this. But as soon as Rhea Ripley came out and open air stadium, her hair is blowing in the wind, and she just looked like an evil demon or a witch or something. She just came out.
Maybe a demon of your dreams, Michael?
She came out just like a sleep paralysis demon. And just truly the way she was so imposing when she came out, and she had a live band with her, which again, I will also be honest with you, every time I've watched the live music element on the many WWE live events I've watched on Peacock and streaming and pay-per-view over the years, I've never loved it. But being at the stadium, again, I don't know why this never occurred to me that all that music is set up for the live experience, because when we heard the music live, it was so kick-ass.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. And then hearing it back, it didn't have any of the energy that it had in the stadium.
It's live music on TV is really hard.
So
it's
tough.
Really hard.
And again, as someone who has EQ'd live music before, it never dawned on me until I was literally at the stadium being like,
you're such a doofus.
Oh, this is mixed for a live stadium. I don't know why I thought.
What we're saying is, when you're watching on Peacock, Motionless in White actually sounded really cool in the stadium.
Incredible, and much to the way where when I heard it on the playback, I was like, oh, I wish they could have heard what we heard, because these guys rule, dude.
Yeah, I had a big oops when I heard it. I was like,
yeah,
damn.
But I have the memory of seeing it live and being like, it kicked ass when I heard it. I don't know what anybody else is talking about. But what I also loved, and this was the second revelation I had about wrestling, is when the lead singer did the ring announcement for Rhea Ripley and hit that sort of screamo, like Rhea Ripley. It was really like, we need screamo ring announcers. This is cool as hell. Like, we need drag queens as managers. We need screamo singers ring announcing, because this is kick ass. Like, it felt awesome in a way where it just. Another thing I love about wrestling is just, it's so simple. It just scratches such a simple base part of my brain to be like, screamo announcer. Perfect. Incredible. A genius move. And this match, dude, was so brutal. And it was tough because I think going into it, the whole thing is that Becky had been battling illness all week.
Yeah,
leading up to the
strep throat,
match.
apparently.
Strep throat. And so it really felt like, watching the match, both live and in the playback, it really felt like Rhea is at this place where she's just such an unstoppable force, and Becky was just trying to weather the storm. And because she's the crafty veteran, she was able to use her veteran instincts to outmaneuver Rhea. But if Rhea ever caught her, it was pretty much lights out every time. Just watching Rhea beat Becky's ass all over the ring, muscle her around. And then you're watching how clever Becky Lynch is as a performer and a character. It was great.
Yeah, what was surprising to me, because, up until this point, Becky has been met with only cheers and just the utmost excitement and appreciation for her and what she does. But when she walked out, I don't know if I heard anybody near in our section being stoked about it, and then I was the only one on their feet screaming and crying again. But yeah, so that must have been really odd for her, because it was definitely odd for me. But you talked about how Becky was holding her own and being a crafty veteran, but walking into this match, I was for sure thinking, which we try not to do, we don't like to think here at the Academy.
Clearly I don't like to think.
It's outside.
Yeah,
but
even though we're a university, don't think critically.
That's what we love here.
We love it.
We are accredited. Don't look it up. So yeah, I really thought that Becky would just be, fucking creamed by Rhea. But I do think that she really she held her own, and there were, every time Becky kicked out after Rhea did cream her, after a while Rhea started, kind of like screaming in disbelief that, oh my God, how is she kicking out? And it's like, strep throat couldn't keep her down, and neither will Rhea. So yeah, it was such a really, really incredible match. And I think that the momentum also moved from both of the wrestlers quite a bit, kind of ping-ponged a little bit. But at the end, Rhea, I feel like this was pretty rude. So Rhea riptided Becky into the buckles and then lifted her body and riptided her again in the center of the ring where there is no escaping, and she walks away retaining the women's world championship title.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it really just felt like Rhea Ripley right now, her character is just a force of nature. And so Becky's character did as well as anyone could have done and really tried all kinds of strategy, but just could not overcome the raw power that was Rhea Ripley. From there, we move on to a 6-pack tag team ladder match for the undisputed
baby.
WWE tag team titles, which is a mouthful. And I will also say, when we were at the live event, we were struck by a very familiar feeling of so many people around us had brought casual friends to the event, and so there was a lot of
expensive casual friend, honestly.
I know, just truly my heart goes out to them, because you got to see somebody be locked in and then immediately have to peel away to try to contextualize the storyline really quickly. But so if you're newer and you want to know what a 6-pack tag team ladder match for the undisputed tag team titles means, that means the undisputed tag team titles are so there are 2 brands. There's Raw and there's SmackDown, and each of those brands has their own tag team division, and each of those divisions has their own tag team title. So there's the SmackDown tag team title and the Raw tag team title. A team called the Judgment Day has both of the titles. So that's why they're carrying the belts, and one of them is red and one of them is blue. They're for the different brands. And so they are putting both sets of the belts, so 4 belts total, on the line in just a regular old ladder match. And so the belts are going to be hung above the ring. You get a ladder, you climb the ladder, you grab the title, you win the title. That's how it works.
Easier said than done, Michael. How dare you?
Easier said than done, because because a 6-pack means there are 6 tag teams, meaning 12 people total are fighting. 12 people total are fighting for 2 sets of titles. So this was geared up to be pandemonium from the beginning, and I would say pandemonium it was.
Yeah, and if you're a fan, if you're a longtime listener of Wrestling Academy, you know that Michael and my biggest enemy is a ladder. And you also know that our favorite types of match is a ladder match. So you can only imagine that live, watching 6 teams ladder each other, I screamed my soul out of my body.
So the teams are A-Town Down Under, which is Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. And then up next we have the Awesome Truth, which is The Miz and R-Truth. And then we have the walking into the match, the champions, the Judgment Day, Finn Bálor and Damian Priest. And then they fought DIY, which is Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. And then they fought the New Day of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. And up next was New Catch Republic, which is the team of Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. And I feel like Samee just straight up fell in love with New Catch Republic during
they've been growing on me. I think it really is because it's Tyler Bate is called Big Beautiful Boy. And, he's my fucking height. And I'm a big, beautiful boy, too. And
you're a sucker for mustaches, too. And he's got a beautiful mustache. I am
a sucker for mustaches.
Yeah. So this match I had so much fun. And again, this was another thing to experience it. I feel like I've seen so many ladder matches, so many tables matches, so many hardcore matches my entire life as a wrestling fan. But to be able to see it live and to see it really happening, to see somebody really go and then fall out of the ring and hit a ladder or a table or the ground, it just feels viscerally different to be there and to see it. And because there were 12 people involved, they're able to move around so fast and set up ladders, tear down ladders, move them into position. So they got to go at such a cool breakneck pace. One of the early sequences that happened that I really liked was they set up the 2 ladders under the titles. So 4 people are immediately going up. And so while all these people are fighting, the New Day sneaks a ladder in between these 2 ladders. Mm-hmm. They climb up and then basically push both sets of ladders. So they just go, ooh. Oh my gosh. Hit the crash and burn, hit the ropes, and they have to reposition.
This match was just so fucking cool. And I love that it was so chaotic, but also they were able to kind of do enough where things were always moving, but it was never I never really felt that we had to make our eyes go in 2 different directions.
Yeah, I agree with you. That definitely happened in other matches, but for this one, I think they were really good at keeping the action contained and then also keeping it almost moved in sections where it would go from this is the New Day dominating and then DIY kind of swoops in and then New Catch Republic kind of swoops in and then A-Town Down Under kind of sneaks in.
I'm having a revelation right now.
And then the Judgment Day kind of sneaks in. Yeah, what's going on?
I think it's the nature of fighting with the ladder, right? So it's so chaotic, but then you have team 1, DIY versus Awesome Truth here. Then they hurt each other. So the spotlight goes to the other one. So it's it goes down the line, and then the first team that was up in the spotlight has time to regenerate for another big, huge spot.
I think the main thing that also hit me is so much of this match was built around R-Truth in general. Mm-hmm. So the Judgment Day, the current champions walking into this match, had an issue with R-Truth where... So for people who don't really know or don't know a ton about R-Truth, the people in our section really seemed like they liked what R-Truth was doing, but they didn't fully get it. So
they didn't get anything.
Fair. But I think a really quick primer about R-Truth is right now he is a comedy forward character. So everything he's doing is just purely funny. So he had a bit that he was doing ostensibly where he just showed up with the Judgment Day and just insisted that he was a member of the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
To the point where he became an unofficial member of Judgment Day for a while. And it wasn't until he was pretty viciously kicked out for the 5th time that it finally stuck. And his old tag team partner, The Miz, so they teamed together years and years and years ago. And so he finally is back with his friend. And yeah, this match was just had so many amazing R-Truth bits all sort of rolled into one. So there's the R-Truth and the Judgment Day bit that he was doing. But then a new one that he was doing is the team of DIY came out to help him. And then R-Truth was like, oh, I know you guys. You guys are DX. And so instead of being mad about it, DIY just leaned in to the point where their entrance for WrestleMania was them basically in DX gear. They had DX colors. They even on the playback, they had the DX flashing X when they came out. So they really were leaning in to this R-Truth bit. And then the main bit that he did, this is a classic R-Truth bit, is that he says that he's the reason he got into wrestling is because when he was a kid, his favorite wrestler growing up was John Cena. Mm-hmm. And if you look into the math, it just doesn't add up because R-Truth is 100% older than John Cena. Mm-hmm. So it's just this classic bit. And it even goes so far as he'll dress up in John Cena gear. He'll do John Cena's moves. It's very, very funny. And then another classic R-Truth bit is he never fully understands what kind of match he's in.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in a ladder match for the tag titles. So he needs to get on the ladder, climb up, and grab the titles. But he thinks it's just a regular tag match. So his old nemesis, the Judgment Day, is in the ring. They're fighting the Miz, and at one point the Miz turns around and he sees R-Truth doing the dramatic, like, come on, tag me in, I got you. And then he tags him in, and then R-Truth goes on this amazing John Cena run where, if you know anything about John Cena, it's called the 5 Moves of Doom. It's a move. It's like a sequence of 5 moves that he hits in a sequence, ending in his finisher that ends every single move. Now, when people were super frustrated with John Cena, they got mad at this booking, but because, you know, R-Truth is doing it kind of as an homage, everybody goes crazy of being like, oh, he's hitting the shoulders, he's doing the 5-knuckle shuffle, he's doing the attitude adjustment. And then he goes for the pin, counts himself 1, 2, 3, and nothing happens, and he's celebrating. You have to have the Miz be like, hey man, so we're in a ladder match, we need to climb it. And it's him being like, don't.
R-Truth. This is so funny. I really love I love watching him. Another moment that really got me was that Tyler Bate is in the ring with Finn, and Finn is trying to set up a ladder. Tyler goes, no. He gets Finn on his shoulders, but Finn's already holding a ladder. So he has both Finn and a ladder on his shoulders, and he starts obviously helicoptering them both, and
just spinning in a circle super fast with Finn and a ladder on his back.
Yeah. And so Kofi is the one who gets knocked by the ladder. Then the ladder is released, and then Tyler continues to spin with Finn. It's so creative and so silly. I love it. It's probably, you know, painful and deathly. But...
yeah, that was one of the highlights. But the low light is a team that me and Samee both really don't like a ton.
And we're definitely not alone.
Yeah, and obviously they're bad guys. Their characters are bad guys. But it's the team of A-Town Down Under, which is Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. They managed to sneak in, and this is how you know Grayson Waller is a bad guy, is the speed at which he was able to climb a ladder.
Fast.
Normally, the tradition, you know, the trope in wrestling is that every wrestler climbs a ladder like so dramatically and so slow. Not Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller was immediately like zoomed right up, got the titles, and I think they paid a pretty heavy price for sneaking those titles away.
Pretty heavy, yeah. The price that they paid was basically Grayson stayed on the ladder a little bit too long. New Catch Republic scrambled up the ladder, and at this point, somehow there's a ladder horizontal from the barricade outside of the ring to the ring ropes, and New Catch Republic picks Grayson Waller up and throws him back first into the ladder that's horizontal and actually breaks the metal ladder.
Yeah, so his ass just goes sailing out of the ring into a ladder, and it's just like, and he crashes and burns on the ground below. So brutal.
And you know what? We don't see Grayson for the rest of the
yeah, he gets eliminated from this match.
Done. He got his belt. He's done.
So as we said, there are 2 sets of titles up for grabs. So Grayson Waller, Austin Theory, they get the SmackDown titles and then pay a pretty heavy price. So when we finally, like, it is a whole long, like, series of drama where it's like, I felt like they did a really good job of giving, even though there were 12 people in the ring, 6 teams, they gave every team a really great spotlight to just, like, showcase why they're such an awesome tag team and why they work so well together. But then we build to the final sequence where it basically comes all the way back around to like a big full circle where it's the Awesome Truth fighting the Judgment Day, which is kind of kicking off this whole conflict, really. And they're being helped by their allies of DIY, right? And so DIY pretending like they're DX, swoop in, do some homage DX moves, right? You've got
incredible.
You've got R-Truth doing his John Cena moves. You've got the whole beef. It's just like this whole match is like building and building and building towards like, this has got to be R-Truth's moment, and commentary is really making reference to the fact that R-Truth has never won at WrestleMania. He's been at so many, but he hasn't won. And so it's like he finally he climbs the ladder, he unhooks the title. So it's like for the first time ever, his character has a moment of clarity and realizes what kind of match he's in and wins. And normally, yeah, normally his character gets chopped out, but it felt so good just to see R-Truth, who's always so consistently funny, have like a big heartwarming moment. It felt great.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for where they are able to take R-Truth now. So he is kind of like class clown, like the jester type right now, and I feel like now there's an opportunity for him to actually do some like really, really fun wrestling without being the butt of the joke.
Or continue to be goofy.
You can do both.
Yeah, he could do it all. He could do it all. So up next we had a tag team match between Rey Mysterio and Andrade versus Santos Escobar and Dirty Dominic Mysterio.
Hey.
So we get to sort of run back a little bit of the Rey Mysterio Dominic Mysterio beef that they had, and then obviously Santos Escobar has just turned his back on his LWO brethren, and so
LWO is Latino World Order.
And they were a group that started in WCW, and so in WCW there was the New World Order. That was the big groups. That was like Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. They were the original NWO, and it became such a big thing and so copyable that there were a whole bunch of different offshoots. And so the LWO was an offshoot branch where it was just Latinx specific wrestlers involved. And funnily enough, Rey Mysterio was the last official member. So when WCW went out of business, he's more or less like the last surviving member of the LWO. So then he brought the LWO back pretty recently. And so it's just been like really cool to see him bring in like a bunch of new generation wrestlers into the fold of the LWO. It's been really cool. Except that SOB, Santos Escobar, fully turned his back on Rey Mysterio. It does seem like lately Rey Mysterio has just been getting betrayed left and right. And
well, he's a deadbeat dad, as my best friend Dominic says all the time.
Oh, okay. So Sammy's been fully seduced over to Rey Mysterio's son, Dominic Mysterio, who, again, used to be just a real good-natured guy, and then he got mixed up with the Judgment Day, and he just turned evil, and has been rolling pretty heavily with the Judgment Day. And so it was kind of interesting when Santos and Rey were starting to have issues with each other. Dominic was kind of like, oh, I get to fight my dad again? You got it. And so he's sort of the alliance in that way, where he's like, I'm not really involved in any of this, but the one thing we have in common is I want to beat up my dad.
I really love that WrestleMania has turned into like Dominic's annual fight with his dad.
Yeah, once a year they get to spend some time fighting each other. But this match was, again, it's really fun. And, Rey Mysterio, high flyer, Santos Escobar, high flyer. Oh, and then they've brought in Andrade, who was previously at WWE, then went over to AEW. He's now back in the WWE. And so it was just like it was really great to have Andrade back for WrestleMania. Like, he came out, he was looking incredible in this match.
Andrade's presentation is he's just another big, strong dude. And he comes to the rings with these really, I don't know, extravagant, intimidating, like has royalty weight masks. And his mask for WrestleMania this year was just, I don't know, the mask green, but it was really
it looked really cool, and also a little bit intimidating too.
Oh yeah,
and
he's scary as hell.
What I love about Andrade's vibe is he just has a real regal energy to him. Yeah, and so it is just to watch him walk to the ring. It's just, I don't know. I find myself muttering, yeah, he's right. Yeah, I've heard people be like, oh, he's cocky, he's got a bad attitude. It's like, he should, because if again, it's a tag match, they're moving around, they're moving, they're shaking, and this is where it dawned on me and Sammy the scale of it, right? Because I've seen this spot 1,000 times where a wrestler jumps out of the ring and makes it from the ring to the ramp. And I was always like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's impressive. But seeing the scale and how far away it actually is made every single jump out of the ring so impressive too. I don't know why I thought it was so close, but being in the venue and seeing it all happen live was incredible.
Yeah, I remember us both just clutching our pearls and maybe passing out a little bit to see how far it really is. So if you want to know how far it is, just close your eyes and imagine somebody like a long jump, perhaps, and then multiply that by, I don't know, 20, and that's how far it actually is.
That was one of those things where it's like, yeah, there were a lot of really great story beats that happened, but truly every time they jumped out of the ring, and it was a lot. There was that incredible double cross body that they did where Andrade loaded up Rey Mysterio on his shoulders, and then they both just went ooh, out of the ring.
Just wild. This is, I mean, we love high flyers. We love luchador, and you know, Rey Mysterio is one of the greatest of all time. And to see him do it, and then to also see my baby boy Dominic and Santos Escobar also fly around the ring, it was just such a treat to see this live.
The end of the night, again, admittedly, I'm a wrestling fan. I'm not a huge sports fan. So these two huge masked men came in at the end of the match, and my brain was going like, okay, this is probably some kind of celebrity or special guest or something like that. Probably somebody from... I almost said the local sports team. The Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah.
Yeah, local sports team.
Hopped the barricade.
No recent accolades.
Yeah, didn't do anything that I'm aware of. And so they came in and just sort of like beat the crap out of Dominic Mysterio, helped them get the win, pulled off the mask, and it was Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson from the Philadelphia Eagles came through. Make sure I got that. Yeah, they ran in, they did it, and then they pulled off their mask, and then they did the classic Hogan and tore off their shirts and just had so much fun. I guess it made me wonder, Samee, if you were last minute invited to do a run-in for WrestleMania, or would there be any sort of homage to a classic, or I guess any wrestler that you would do?
I need to tell you the story that will fully answer your question and expose a part of me that I didn't think I was going to expose at Wrestling Academy.
Okay.
So I'm generally a behind the scenes production person aside from Wrestling Academy. So when there are moments where I have to be on stage or in front of a camera, I get a little nervous, but there's something in me that wants to perform just a little bit. So I was at the Women in Comedy Festival in Boston, I don't know, over a decade ago. And I needed to be on stage for a quick second. And in an attempt to be a little smooth in getting off the stage, I actually fell off of the stage. So to answer your question, Michael, I would probably love to pay an homage to a wrestler, but in the end, I would probably fall and nothing cool would happen at all.
Oh, so your homage would be Titus World Slide, where you would just slip and fall out of the ring?
Yes. Oh, no. But also, Titus, thank you.
Yeah, so you'd be so overcome with adrenaline, you're like, this is an homage to my boy, Titus O'Neil.
Yeah. Yes. How about you? Do you have an homage, like, loaded up?
I do, but I don't want to say because I'm fully going to do it when The Rock does it later in this review.
Oh my god.
It's the just bring it, but I'll really do the act out when we get to that part. Okay. So after this match, we have Jimmy Uso versus Jay Uso.
Blood feud.
Brother versus brother. They were in the bloodline together. Jay sort of turned his back on the bloodline, and then it was only a matter of time before Jimmy turned on his twin brother Jay, and then they got to fight each other live. And I feel like this was what I noticed was this to me felt like the biggest disconnect between what I saw live and then what I saw played back. Because I think a lot of the beats that happened in this match live, because we're in this huge cinematic surrounded by people and we've got this incredible wide shot of the whole match pretty much happening, like all those big dramatic beats played super well for me, but just for whatever reason when I was watching it on the playback, the cutting around the camera, it just sort of didn't quite have that same vibe that I was feeling when I saw it live. And so that was much like much like Rhea Ripley's Screamo band coming out. I did have moments where I was going like, ooh, I actually really, some of the energy that I personally was feeling was missing from and again, it's a live event. That's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, that was one of the only times where when I was like watching back the whole event that I personally felt the disconnect a little bit.
I don't think I will ever have a feeling like the feeling of me, you, and 75,000 of our friends it's just screaming yeet and doing the yeet arms together Oh, and maybe that's what the people at home are missing, is that just group cheer movement thing. Like,
Truly,
it
it was
was
just a wave of
just
people being like, "It's just me, Oos." It just, you got to see it in a wave going around the whole stadium. It was so incredible, and just to be able to take part in it, that really took me out of my brain, and I just kind of zoomed out to be like, "Oh my god, Jey Uso was a tag team. He's been a tag team wrestler for so long,
Did
and
his theme song finally clicked for you on Saturday?
yeah, and it's just him, Oos."
Come on, Oos.
When I heard the song, I had never listened to the lyrics before. No, to me it was just like he had been a tag team wrestler for so long, and he was able to get so popular that he's doing Yeet, he's doing the It's Just Me, and everybody's doing it, and it's like to the point where I was walking around the venue, like trying to get a drink, trying to go to the bathroom, and there were pretty much two things people were consistently yelling.
Yeet
Was one, and then yeah was the other one. I'll get more into this on night 2, but basically the yeah chants were alive and well. And so it was just, I just zoomed out and just had that moment watching Jey Uso go for it, where I was just like, this is so awesome. Like, I don't think he probably ever saw this coming.
No, not
And
at
I
all.
know him fighting Jimmy was sort of his lifelong dream, and so that really felt great to see. And I gotta say, watching it live, it really, the brother versus brotherness, the drama, the pauses, the hesitation, all that stuff, to me read way differently, just based on how it was presented to us live. So I think you and I had a great time with this match.
Oh
And
yeah.
when Jey, it builds up to a really, basically Jimmy is just taking cheater pot shots at Jey the whole match, and it's just like being really a real piece of crap to him, and it just builds to a 4-minute sequence where they're just super kicking each other back and forth, and it's brutal. And then it gets to the point where the tables are turned, where basically Jey has Jimmy on his knees and he's going for this coup de grace super kick, and Jimmy's like, wait, please stop. And then you see Jey hesitate, and he has a problem being able to kick his brother. And that was one of those things when we saw that live, just to see that silhouette where you could just see the hesitation go through Jey's entire body, and you could really see like Jimmy's whole body just like really reaching out for his brother and pleading. It felt a lot more dramatic than when I watched it back. It really felt, I don't know. It's just some of the energy was missing. I found myself missing some of the energy. But when I was there live, I really felt exactly what I felt like they were going for, which was that, yeah, these guys are rivals, but they're still brothers. And so on some level, that's really going to affect Jey, that he has to kick his twin brother's head off. Of course, that's going to get under his skin. And it really made me hope that they get to do a couple more of these. Like, I really hope that they could do like a series of 3, because I do think that the reception on this match hasn't been the best, and so I'm hoping that they'll be able to get another crack at it, because I really do think that this storyline is something special, and I think these guys are both so great that it'd be really cool to see them run it back one more time.
It's really interesting that people aren't connecting with it, or at least the people who watched it at home, because we had, the super kick exchange, which is always fun, and they are pros at super kicking. They've got it down to a science where it sounds like a damn gunshot every time they're super kicking. And there's also this one point where, to kind of end a chain of super kicks, Jey comes and does like a Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat flying kick to Jimmy's face. And I'm sorry, people at home are saying this is mid. I don't understand. Like, I just watch it again, maybe. Uncross your arms, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It could also be one of those things where it's just the expectations were so high that it's
sure.
It might take maybe viewing it again, or again. I also think it's like, if they're able. What I honestly felt was that the way they got to this match, I think they needed a little more time of Jimmy and Jey interacting, and so it felt like the timeline to get to this match was a little truncated. So by the time we got there, we didn't get to have quite as much on the mic time. showing up, doing blood feud stuff to really build this into a climactic blood feud, which is why I'm hoping that instead of being the end to a dream match that Jimmy and Jay want to have, that this is the opening salvo to a fun story where they get a little more time and they get to flesh it out. That's my hope that can come from this, is they get to run it back.
Right, which is fun about WWE and the continuing programming, is that WrestleMania is, a place where stories get finished, but it also is like a place where stories continue, or stories get their first match and really get lit.
Then up next, we had a 6-woman tag match between Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, Naomi versus Damage Control.
Oh my god, the motherfucking entrances for this.
Entrances were incredible.
Ay. We got the Kabuki Warriors with the fans. And, Kairi Sane has face paint on, and the vaguely pirate themed stuff that she has going on. And Kairi Sane's, doing her thing.
What I would say is
Dakota Kai.
Asuka takes off her mask and has just the most intimidating face paint on underneath.
The scariest I've seen her, and we've seen her for 914 days straight.
Yeah, we did a whole episode on her. She's done so much intimidating makeup, but she truly looked like a demon in a not like. Because I feel like Rhea Ripley, she did her sleep paralysis demon, but I think she still was like, yeah, but I'm also, come on, guys. Whereas I think Asuka was just like, yeah, I'm a demon, right? And you're just like, you seem like a maniac.
Yeah.
You seem so scary, so intimidating.
Oh gosh, it's so cool. And then we get Jade, Bianca, and Naomi's entrance, and they start out on an elevated platform, and it comes down, and the lights are down, and we've got up lights, so we get the silhouettes of these 3 just incredible people. It lowers down. Bianca Belair is swinging her braid in the lights, and I'm getting overwhelmed already. Like, Jade Cargill is in her, I think right now she's doing like a Storm hair, which Storm, the X-Men Storm. And she's in silver. She looks like a mirror ball, and she's got this like really cool like silver line down her entire body. And Naomi looks like a damn rave. She's got light up shoes. She's got this Kung Lao hat,
super
just
big,
like
wide rimmed hat,
lit RGB. And oh man, like, as cool as it was to see Damage Control's entrance, when you see Jade, Bianca, and Naomi, there's just no way that they're gonna lose this. And spoiler alert, they don't.
I was gonna say, how you summed up the entrance to me felt like a really great microcosm of what the match was, because I think the Damage Control entrance was incredible, right? Like, we have traditional like robes and fans, and then when they reveal the Kabuki Warriors and Dakota Kai, and then as they're walking, they've got the dancers, the fan, like with the fans throwing cherry blossoms. It's like so beautiful. Then it's like Asuka's makeup is so intimidating. And it's like the entrance, the outfits, top notch, and you're like, oh my god, that's so incredible. And then all of a sudden, all of the air goes out of the arena, and then just like the most incredible Jade Cargill, Naomi, and Bianca Belair entrance, and they take the ring. And that's kind of how the whole match felt too, where I felt like the Kabuki Warriors, their tag team offense is so great, where they're just so good at working in tandem with each other that whenever they got a moment, it was just sort of swooping in out of nowhere and then just like doing a double team attack on somebody really fast and then disappearing just as quickly as they came. And it was some of the only tag team action that I saw, aside from the 12-person ladder match, where I was like, this is a tag team. These people are used to working together. These people like doing it. And so as much as I'm praising Damage Control during the match, I mean, dude, when it came time for Naomi and Bianca and Jade to do their thing, they were so incredibly dominant and so incredibly, everything they did was just so unbelievably awesome. And it just got me so excited to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited for them to be a tag team. I'm excited for them to be a group. So each one of them in the beginning have a really huge moment of destruction. So when Naomi's in, she gets in the corner and it's Dakota and Kyrie, and she does this thing where she just does like a sit down with their heads in her shoulders, and they just strangle. She drops and strangles them on the neck. And then when Bianca gets tagged in, she just wreaks havoc. She lays waste on all three of them, and then they all end up in the middle of the ring, and Bianca is able to standing moonsault pin them down. And then Jade gets tagged in, and this is the moment we were all fucking waiting for, because we really haven't seen Jade do a lot of stuff in WWE up to this point.
Yeah, so this whole match has truly, and you can feel it the whole time, this has been built around Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, oh, we can't wait for her to get in the ring and start mixing it up. And then when she does...
Oh my gosh, she does. She basically just snatches Kyrie out of the air, which, I love when they do this, because they're obviously communicating the great strength of the person. And Jade snatches her and basically just, I almost wanted her to rip her in half, like like a Mortal Kombat fatality. Thankfully, there was no murder involved. But yeah, Jade is such an impressive wrestler, and we were up in the stands, and we could see like the definition in her shoulders from up there.
It's just like biceps, back.
Yes.
Like you could just see all her muscles from so far away.
I love it.
She's so jacked, so strong. And then she was just getting to make these really flashy feats of strength. Mm-hmm. So when she finally comes in, it was just, she was going to clear house, and she did.
She did. And Bianca gets in a hair whip on Asuka. And this hair whip on Asuka, I'm welling up with tears right now. It was so loud that it sounded like we were in the ring with them. Like, that's how loud it was. And this hair whip, kind of was the beginning of the end of Damage Control.
It's like we were at a baseball game and we heard someone hit a home run. Like, that's how far the sound traveled, where it was just like, and it was just like, we both couldn't believe that we heard it.
The entire stadium went, oh! Like,
yeah.
I feel like the entire world went, oh! Like, no, oh my God. Such an incredible hair whip. But Jade ends up pinning Dakota Kai, and if she wasn't being fucking cool enough, Jade is on, like, when somebody who's just sure that they're pinning somebody, they like cover them. Randy Orton does it,
kind of hits a pose while getting the pin.
Yeah, and so Jade like licks her hand all fucking cool while she's like, after the pin has been counted,
like down the silver line.
100%. And I cannot wait to see Jade do more. I really can't.
So after this, we move on to the Intercontinental Championship match between Gunther, who has been the champion for 666 days. The ring general himself is fighting Sami Zayn, who kind of won a tournament to get this opportunity in the first place. And so we're in Philadelphia for WrestleMania. So this is the closest thing we have to a Rocky storyline happening, where it is truly an underdog fighting a huge hulking monster that is Gunther. No one's been able to stop him in over a year, over like 2 years at this point. And yeah, this whole match was just so fun. And this is one of those ones where I didn't think I was going to get as emotional as I did watching it. I think truly being there live, seeing it happen, and seeing this whole match happen. So, like, obviously, it's a Gunther match, so he is just dominating Sami Zayn so hard, and he's hitting him with these nasty chops, and you can hear every single one of them. We were talking about Asuka's hair sounding like a bat hitting a home run, and it's like all of those chops sounded like gunshots. And then he's just doing the thing where he's like kicking Sami in the head, but kind of paintbrushing his head a little bit, so it's just like,
oh yeah, so rude, so rude,
so disrespectful. And every time he does it, this was another one of those things, right? Because we've got that big wide angle that really has the scale of the whole stadium behind him. Every time he would do this really dominant display, he would just kind of strike this pose. Gunther would strike this pose in the middle of the ring, and just to have the wind blow in, and it's like a gust of cold air, and we get to see the whole crowd behind him booing, and he's just got this cocky smile because he's been this dominant champion for so long. It really did add to the, this is classic meat and potatoes wrestling, where it's good guy, bad guy, underdog babyface against a cocky, dominant heel, right? And so you just, can Samee get an opening? Can he get an in? Can he do this? Can he do that?
One of the things about Gunther in his 666-day reign is, through watching him, he almost has Animal Kingdom predator toying with prey in the corner type vibe, and that's exactly what it felt like watching Gunther like track and toy with Samee. Like, he would hit him hard, but maybe just leave him a little bit of space to continue suffering for that much longer, to the point where it felt like the end was near for Samee. I think that, I mean, even you were talking about it before the match started, like, there's no way that Samee's going to win this. There's absolutely no way that Samee's going to win this. And we get to a point in the match where it's like, okay, he's not going to win this. And, throughout the match, they cut to Samee's wife, and it happened so many times that we're like, oh no, Samee's not going to win. Samee's not going to win.
Yeah, Gunther is killing Samee literally in front of his wife. It's so sad.
It's super sad.
And I think, speaking of the camera work, I think this is a great place to point out here that I've been seeing a lot of people talk about this, and I just wanted to fully highlight it here, because generally we're a wrestling history podcast, so we're talking about broadcasts that happened so long, but the current way, they've really upped their production and how they shoot stuff. So they had so many really cool and interesting camera shots and camera angles, and I really noticed it during this match, because when Samee's doing his walk out to the ring, we basically follow him from backstage, and you get to see him make the walk out to do his entrance, and I just thought that energy built. And so when we were there at the venue, I mean, they had it up on the screen, and we saw him making his walk, and you can just sort of see it. And you're like, oh, they haven't hit his music yet, but you can see him getting pumped up. He's kicking road cases. He's getting super amped. And then his theme song hits, and we're all just it felt like we made that walk with him, and it really just adds to the energy. It felt great. And I've just been noticing a lot of really cool, interesting gambles in how they're producing the show, and I just thought that was really cool. And it was super apparent during the match between Sami Zayn and Gunther, and I thought that was really cool. And then the main thing that starts happening is the more they keep cutting to Sami Zayn's wife out in the crowd, that you can start to see Gunther starts setting his sights on her. So he starts taunting her, and he starts doing these super brutal dominant moves to Sami Zayn. And then he kind of starts getting closer. Then he kind of hops the ropes, and he really keeps inching closer and closer and closer to where I was like, where is this going? Because I'm freaked out. I'm freaked out enough by how much he is beating up and brutalizing Sami Zayn that the more we keep cutting to his wife, only something scary can happen from here. I think
at some point Gunther stops toying with Samee, and he starts kicking it up to finally destroying Samee. So I kind of noticed him at some point just starts powerbombing Samee from a mile high, because Gunther is 7 feet tall. So he just starts getting higher and higher and throwing Samee down harder and harder. And Gunther leaves Samee destroyed in the middle of the ring, and he gets out, and he's on the ring apron. And then we see Samee lifelessly start psyching himself up. And the emotion of the match by now, and in the stadium, we were all hyper invested. We were all, near tears, and come on, Samee, you could do it. him psyching himself out by flopping around like a fish, like for a second took me a little bit out of it, but then pulled me right back in as he finally like stood up and got in the corner and started shaking his fist.
That is why I think, for my money, Sami Zayn is one of my favorite baby faces right now, because this is also why I kept telling you, like, I really thought that there was no way that he could win, because I've seen Sami Zayn do this time and again where he's so good at being an underdog, so good at being a babyface, that he makes you believe that he can win, only to watch him fly too close to the sun and crash and burn. And so I was really like, God, the fact that I'm believing, the fact that I want this to happen, the fact that Sami has convinced me time and again that it's possible, everything in my body is telling me that it's not going to be able to happen. And so when I watched him start to charge himself up, I was really gearing myself up for disappointment. I was really like, okay, tale as old as time. Sami's going to get close and he's not going to be able to seal the deal.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think that that's the value of like Sami or Becky, right? Where we can visually see them like scraping the bottom of their energy ducts to try their best.
Yeah.
After Sami musters up the strength and psychs himself out, he gets and brain busts Gunther before haluva kicking. Haluva
kick.
Keep that on. He haluva kicks the ring general, and he takes the fucking win. And I don't know, like as similar to the yeet of it all, watching Sami Zayn win. And maybe we'll cut in the audio of us freaking out now.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna just say this is the last. I'll bring it up, but for the people who I heard were like, "Hey, I thought that Philly crowd was kind of quiet." We're just gonna show you an actual video of what we did when Sami Zayn won. So I don't know if Mike's picked this up, but in our section, this is what was going on.
1, 2, 3.
So obviously we were totally freaking out. We were having such a great time. And I just didn't think it was going to be possible. So I got so overwhelmed that I like was tearing up and I started crying. And that was just another reason why I was so grateful that, you know, we work together, we get to do this, and we both have this love of wrestling, where it was truly one of the first times in my life I just got to experience and feel the show in the way that it was supposed to. And like, I could just feel my feelings and feel the emotion and just look over and be like, you knew what I was going through, even if you felt differently or felt similarly. So this is the 4th time that Sami Zayn has held the IC title. So again, I'm just really interested to see where it goes from here, because I think when we were talking about in our Asuka episode, we also mentioned the concept of undefeated streaks, really long title reigns. I think there's benefits and drawbacks to both. And so to me, it was one of those things where, yeah, I'm just excited to see what Gunther can do now that he doesn't have the weight of this long title reign on his shoulders anymore. He might be able to mix it up and try some interesting stuff. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see where it goes. It could be
Gunther is now in damage control.
Yeah. Who knows? He could show up in damage. He could be smiling nice guy Gunther. We don't know. Like, he could do literally anything now that he doesn't have to be the ring general. So I mean, again, it could be we're in a place of pure potential. So they could do everything with him. They could do nothing with him. This could be a great idea. This could be a terrible idea. But it just it gave me a lot of hope. There's a lot of potential energy here. That's how I feel.
And I'll say this, and I haven't said this out loud yet, but it was kind of fun to scream my own name.
No, that was really funny. I did notice there was a little bit of
twinkle.
There was a little bit of residual energy going to you every time that people were like, "Sammy, Sammy, Sammy." I could feel you being like,
"Thank you."
Yes. Yes.
I can do it. Okay.
Yeah, the more Sammy hears their own name, the more powerful they get.
Yeah.
So this brings us to the main event of night 1 of WrestleMania.
Holy moly.
Sammy, we made it to the main event.
We did.
This is a tag team match between the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. And the winner of this match, it determines if the main event of if the main event of Sunday night of WrestleMania Night 2 will be fought under Bloodline rules.
And this is unique to this year, where a match during day 1 carries over to the storytelling of a match in day 2. And, oh man.
I liked it. It gave me a little bit of extra energy to be like, oh, we're going to see a change happen in real time. You know what I mean? It gave me some... Yeah, it just like gave me a little bit of energy just to be like, something could happen one of two ways tomorrow. You know what I mean?
So let's talk about these entrances.
Yeah.
All 4 people are incredibly powerful, big personalities, super talented, and each one had just a heart-stopping intro. We start with Cody.
Yeah.
And we get his song, which the lyrics, I looked them up after day 1, and I was like, there's no way that I'll sing along with this. But then I did.
Yeah.
Hard. But so we get Cody, we get his theme song, we all outstretch our arms at the whoa, and then it's Seth freaking Rollins, and we're all doing the whoa together. And I think, my main theme throughout this whole entire episode, and your main theme maybe too as well, Michael, is experiencing these things live was just life changing. Like all of my all of my hair pores are different now, and seeing all 4 of these dudes, these just mega superstars, and their entrances that we've only seen through TV screens now live. Oh my God, what a treat.
Just to be part of the collective energy of the entrances did feel really cool. And yeah, it was one of those things where, I mean, obviously the whole WrestleMania itself has been built around Cody Rhodes. Will he be able to end Roman Reigns' dominant title reign? He's been champion for 3 years at this point, 3.5 years pretty much. And so Cody Rhodes has been on this journey, this 2-year journey to try to defeat Roman Reigns. And so here we are, this close to the main event. And if he loses, the stakes could be higher, because basically what's been keeping everybody from being able to beat Roman is the interference of his literal family, the bloodline, have been interfering every step of the way. And so basically, if Cody and Seth lose this tag team match, basically there are no rules. There are no rules on night 2. And so everybody's walking in, and tensions are so high. You could see it on Cody's face. He's ready to go. Seth is ready to go.
Yeah.
And like, they're ready to go. People are cheering, going crazy for them. And well, I'll say everybody except for maybe one person was fully bloodline. That was me. And it was just...
Michael stood with his hand in the air for no less than 10 minutes, acknowledging his tribal chief and
the final
boss. And the final boss. And, we were teasing each other all day because I am I'm a Cody crybaby, but Michael insisted that I acknowledge his tribal chief.
Yeah, so Samee is a Cody crybaby, but I still but I still forced them to acknowledge our tribal chief. And those entrances went on for so long. My arm was truly burning with
like
how much I was
challenge,
acknowledging
honestly.
it. And I was just like, I can't falter. I gotta acknowledge the tribal chief. I don't know, dude. There are so many people. I've heard so many people criticize Roman Reigns' run. And I'll be totally honest with you. I hear it, I agree with it, and then every single time I see Roman Reigns walk to the ring, I'm like, I don't care. He needs to be the champion forever. Oh, he's the coolest dude. And so
yeah, it wasn't too hard to acknowledge him once I started seeing him walk down the ramp. I was like, okay,
the aura was there. It to me felt next level. I mean, again, I was super stoked when Cody and Seth came out, and then look, The Rock, that's my childhood. I never thought I was going to be able to see The Rock in a wrestling match ever again. And so just the fact that I got to do it, I was already, on cloud nine, watching one of my childhood wrestling heroes be able to do a thing I didn't think I'd ever be able to see live. And so it was just really cool. And this match was
electric.
Nuts.
It was wild. I will say the bell rang after all four of them did their entrance, and they stood. They did a stare off for longer than a minute because nobody wanted to start their match. Nobody wanted to come off as that guy, and you could really just eat up that tension between all four of these dudes. It was sick. This whole match was ridiculous. And in the beginning, Seth was really, I don't know if it wasn't gleeful, but he was definitely kind of teasing or excited.
Poking the bear a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
and the bear being Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Vibes changed pretty quickly once The Rock was able to lay into Seth.
Yeah, and what I liked about that, and so what we were talking about is when we were talking about the ladder match, we felt like they did a really good job sharing the spotlight. But this was one of those times where watching it on the playback was actually really helpful because there was a lot of stuff that I missed. And so at a certain point, both tag teams break off and are sort of fighting throughout the arena. So we've got Roman and Cody are fighting up the entrance ramp. And then we've got Dwayne, as you said, just beating the crap out of Seth Rollins. They hop the barricade and he's beating him up in the audience. And so at a certain point, it became a game of violent Where's Waldo. So we're just sort of scanning around being like, oh, I think we see The Rock over there. And I was like, okay, you keep your eyes peeled on The Rock and I'll keep my eyes peeled. And so every time I was just like, oh, Cody's hitting a suplex. And you're like, okay, cool. I think Dwayne is spitting water in Seth's face. And so it just truly was, we were both there scouting our individual teams. And then we were sort of reporting back to each other. But when we watched the playback, they absolutely had a split screen. So 100%. We didn't miss a second of the action.
Right. And I asked you earlier, like the going out of the ring into the audience, like that deep into the audience, felt a little nod to the Attitude Era.
Yeah, it really, I mean, that's just classic wrestling stuff. When the feud gets too intense, they got to brawl out in the stands, out in the audience, and
take a little walk.
Yeah, take a little walk, explore the space, have fun. But the thing that really happened that I also missed, because I think the thing we haven't said is, so when you watch the broadcast, they have the commentary team giving you all the context and putting things in perspective for you. But when you're watching it live, that isn't there. And so you're just watching the action happen silently. And so, save for giant hits and slams and shouts. So you're not hearing that context and jokes and getting brought up on storylines while the match is happening. And so a lot of times there would be little exchanges, but since it's not mic'd to the live crowd, we didn't quite understand what was going on. So when they spilled out of the ring, they were out of there for a really long time.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, okay, isn't this like just a regular tag team match? I don't know why they're using trash cans. I don't know why they're swinging belts at each other and stuff. But when you watch on the playback, the context that I had missed was the ref starts. So when they first tumble out of the ring, The Rock is just beating the crap out of Seth Rollins outside of the ring. And then the ref starts to count like you would do in a normal match. And then The Rock is basically like, stop counting or I will have you fired. And so basically the bloodline is just throwing their weight around. And so like, so if we win this match tomorrow night, we get to cheat. And then they just basically decide, and we're also going to cheat in this match too. So fuck you.
Any match, we're cheating.
It was just the most thumb on the scales thing I'd ever seen. And everyone was so mad at The Rock, obviously, of course. But still, I think he's The Rock from everybody's childhood. So everybody was like, you're being so evil, but it's really cool. Like,
sure.
So I myself was, as someone who was firmly Team Bloodline, I was having so much fun with the matches that was happening.
I think, outside of the evilness of destroying Cody and Seth, The Rock has been having this relationship with Cody's mom throughout all of this. He has the weight belt, the Mama Rhodes weight belt, and Cody's blood has been previously on it. And The Rock finds time in this match to go and intimidate Mama Rhodes a little bit. It did get scary, but then it
fully
was...
he's slapping his arm with a
like,
belt,
"You're
being
next."
like, I'm gonna do this to your son. It's like,
It's scary.
yeah, I mean, there's playful bad guy heel wrestlers, and then there's whatever the hell The Rock was doing, which was kind of a side of him I've rarely, if ever, seen. And so
Some final boss shit.
yeah, whatever evil he was tapping into to be the final boss, you're right. It did cross the line and get scary in a way where I was like, oh my,
It's like, wait, I'm uncomfortable.
you're making it hard for me to cheer for my childhood hero. Like,
Yeah, I think what took us out of it, or what took the seriousness out of it, took the scariness away from The Rock, was Mama Rhodes is clapping back at The Rock, and the censors missed her saying, well, that's bullshit. And so you just get this tiny "that's bullshit" from Mama Rhodes while The Rock is walking away. And then, the world was right again, and I was happy to see big dudes slap each other.
this match was so like hard hitting and separated, and then we kind of get to the point where they truly, I mean, much in the way where I think once Sami Zayn beat Gunther, for me, I was like, okay, I think this main event, I'm pretty sure I know where it's going, but they kind of did something I wasn't expecting. And so it builds to the sequence where both Cody and Seth hit Triple H's finisher, the pedigree, on both Roman and The Rock at the same time, and go for the pin. And in my mind, I was like, this could actually happen in the way where I was just so happy to be on the ride, where I wasn't thinking and I wasn't doing the storyline math and this happened at this part of the match. That probably means that this and it just was nice to, I turned that part of my brain off and I just got to be on the roller coaster of Rock dominating. I'm scared. Cody fighting back. I'm excited and intrigued. Like, could he win? And it just built, it was incredible. It was so much fun.
One thing that I went into this match expecting was that Roman and The Rock would just dominate, but that really wasn't the case. I think that you mentioned the in-sync pedigrees, but that's far from the only time that Cody and Seth looked really strong. There was even a point where there was technically a 3 count, but The Rock pulled the ref out. So there was a point where it did look like they won, but the vice-like grip that I felt when The Rock started doing the setup for the People's Elbow, I just feel Michael's hands just crush my shoulders in anticipation and excitement. And I don't think I've ever heard you scream in the register that you screamed.
So Sammy's not wrong. There was I felt myself turn into a weird animal, and I was just kind of shuffling in my seat, muttering, I need him to do this. I need him to do this. And at one point you were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, he's got 3 moves. I need him to hit these moves. These moves have been in my DNA since I was a kid. So I mentioned that if adrenaline wise, if I got asked to be in a WrestleMania match, what is the move I would copy? Here's the move. The move is when The Rock does his just bring it, where he goes like, I would fully do that. It wouldn't look as cool, and then I would immediately get choked out by all of the rest. Like, of course, like I would have no shot now. But so it's like, that's one of those moves that when I think that when I saw him do that, that's what unlocked the thing in my head, and I became Gollum from Lord of the Rings, and I was like,
rabid,
like, he has to do the moves. Like, I truly,
I need him to do him.
Yeah, Sammy is 100% right. I fully was shifting and muttering, I need him to do this. And you were like, what are you talking about? And here's what I'm talking about. So The Rock hits, one of my favorite moves that he does is the spine buster, right? So he just picks you up and then throws your ass down. And that's usually a prelude to him doing the People's Elbow. I mean, you can attest just from seeing me, the electricity that went through my body when he just stands and is like taking it in. And you're like, he's going to do the People's Elbow. He's going to pull off the shoulder pad, and then he's going to run and do all the things. And I was just like, I can't explain the hold it has on me, where it's like, to this day, The Rock is my favorite wrestler. He's been my favorite wrestler the whole time. And so, sure, there are other modern wrestlers that I really like, but that's why this whole Rock storyline that's honestly why I'm such a big Bloodline Roman Reigns fan, because as soon as The Rock got in the mix and they had to pivot to this, the reason why they had to pivot to this tag team match, final boss, do all this stuff, is because The Rock came back and they were like, we're going to do Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania. And everyone was so mad except for me. I was just like, that sounds incredible. The Rock doing a match. I love it. And then immediately they had to pivot. And I'll be honest with you, I'm so glad that they did, because that means we got The Rock as a heel back, which is something I also never thought I was going to be able to see. And so just to watch The Rock be a bad guy, but then he went over the top with it like he always does. And now he's like the final boss and he's threatening Cody's mom. Crazy. And it's just like, I'm going nuts. And then it's like all to have him standing over Cody about to do the people's elbow. And I'm just freaking out. But he doesn't do the rock bottom. So somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can't let this match has to keep going. Like,
if that match ended there without the rock bottom, I think Michael would still be in that stadium, like swaying a little bit in a blanket. Like, he needs to do it.
Yeah, you would have heard me scream from wherever you're listening to this from. I would have freaked out. And so it's like, thankfully, the match keeps going. And then finally, of course, The Rock is able to hit his rock bottom, hit the people's elbow uninterrupted, and then get that 1, 2, 3.
Just holy hell, what an end to this tag team match. And honestly, I don't see it going any other way,
because it just wouldn't have been as fun.
Yeah, like, we need that dirty main event. We need that dirty main event.
We needed Bloodline Rules.
Yeah, when was the last time we saw Roman wrestle clean? Was it cool? Probably not. That's why his cousins kept on interrupting.
Yeah, he was just wrestling Bloodline Rules before it was cool. And now it's going to be cool to do Bloodline Rules. And I think, again, that was just a fun little... I think most people going into the main event were obviously like, yeah, it makes probably the most amount of sense to have it be Bloodline Rules on night 2. But again, I think what we keep hammering home is, because we were there and we saw it live, it was a fun little interactive beat to be like, this is going to have direct consequences on what we're going to see tomorrow. So it was super fun and super exciting. And I walked out of the ring. The ring. I walked out of
the one ring.
My bridges. I walked out of that open air stadium not experiencing the same level of hypothermia that my body was experiencing. I was cold, I was shivering, but in my brain, I was just like happy to walk 2.5 miles into the night before we were able to catch a lift and go home.
Just proudly, like, oh my God, this was incredible. This was historic, I think.
And so that takes us to the end of WrestleMania night 1. Samee, we did it. It's Bloodline Rules tomorrow. How do you feel?
I feel so good. At the end of night 1, I sounded like I've been howling for 3 days straight. When Sami Zayn won, I screamed so hard and for so long that I gave myself a headache that I think I still have. It was such an incredible event. I mean, really truly the only thing that I actually had a bit of a moment was the fact that they let Jay come out before Jimmy, which I feel like they did Jimmy a little dirty.
Yeah, they did.
To have 75,000 people screaming your brother's catchphrase, singing your brother's main event, and then your song plays and everyone goes, wait, he has a theme song?
Yeah,
like,
and
no,
now
dude.
The bad guy comes out and you're like, what are you doing?
Right, yeah, it was a little while. Other than that, perfect night, and it was only night 1.
I felt how you felt, I think, but I'm going to go a different way with my main takeaway, because I think a thing that I just encountered, whether it was at Effy's Big Gay Brunch or WrestleMania, was I saw so many people having to play that game of explaining what was going on to a playfully antagonistic / apathetic / hostile audience of, being like, oh, so this is we're at WrestleMania, and this is all fake, right? And you have to watch somebody who's there to just have fun and enjoy the show be like, yeah, it's predetermined, but like there's elements of like there are writers and it's a storyline and it's like a whole thing. And first of all, if you're in that situation where you're like a wrestling fan and the only people you can get to consistently go to wrestling shows in your life are people who don't fully get it, and you kind of have to shepherd them through that experience. I've been there. I feel for you. And it just made me really grateful for being able to do this podcast and getting to go to WrestleMania with my best buddy Samee, because it was really just in person. And it was really just nice to be able to have that sense of community that I've been looking for in wrestling in so long. And I do think that there were so many people who in our section brought people, but there were also people who just showed up alone and they got to feel that sense of community that I don't think we get to feel all the time. And so just to walk in that energy of people who are just yelling yeet and then we're just walking around, it was like, we don't know you, but we get what you're doing. You know what I mean? And we saw people out on the street wearing wrestling t-shirts and we got to just give them a little, it felt like Fight Club. It felt like we were all in on something. And that was just really incredible. And it made me really grateful that we do what we do. And it made me really grateful for the podcast that we're doing, because it's like our whole point is we want to help bring in new fans. So if you don't know that much about wrestling, we want to be a place for you. Or if you don't get to have that fun, positive community that you want to be a part of, that's what we're trying to build here. So it felt really great. And
oh, shit. Are you going to Gollum me again?
From our family to yours, we just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to Wrestling Academy, which is written, produced, and edited by me, Michael Classic, and you, Samee Junio.
Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Wrestling Academy Pod, and send us an email at wrestlingacademypod@gmail.com.
You can follow, rate, and leave a positive review wherever you get your podcast, but check out Spotify where we have Q&As and polls for every episode. And please, if you have any information on Ween Kid, go to our website, wrestlingacademy.university, to send us an anonymous tip, or you can call the Ween Kid tip line and leave us a voicemail at 708-669-4512. Again, that number is 708-669-4512.
Class
dismissed.
We'll
see you tonight, tomorrow.